Hey, what do you know about Bitcoin?
It's like money.
It's like money? All right, let's see what it is.
Throughout history, value has taken many forms, and people have used a lot of different materials to represent money. Salt, wheat, shells, and of course, gold have all been used as a medium of exchange.
You know people use salt as money?
In order for something to represent value, people have to trust that it is indeed valuable and will stay valuable long enough for them to redeem that value in the future. Up until 100 years ago or so, we always trusted in something to represent money. However, something happened along the way, and we've changed our trust model from trusting something to trusting in someone.
Did you know that we used to tie the money to the gold?
Yeah.
What did we call that?
Yeah, gold standard. That's
So-
what Teen Titans said.
Teen Titans? What did Teen Titans say about gold standard?
We don't want your gold, fool.
Well, you should. I'm getting us back on the gold standard.
What is exactly this golden standard?
It's the monetary system where paper money got value directly related to gold, you dummies. You tell me $1 is worth 25 and 8/10 grains of gold. We all know what's what. But that dirty President Nixon back in '71 unilaterally took the entire country off the standard. And ever since then, we've been based on the dollar value on a freely floating exchange rate. Ah! The money ain't tied to a specific item of value, and it's all make-believe numbers and market manipulations. But now, me and my gold will be safe from financial ruin. How you like that, President Nixon? Huh? Back on the standard, baby!
People found it too cumbersome to walk around the world carrying bars of gold or other forms of money, so paper money was invented. Here's how it worked. A bank or government would offer to take possession of your bar of gold, let's say worth $1,000, and in return, that bank would give you receipt certificates, which we call bills, amounting to $1,000. Not only were these pieces of paper much easier to carry, but you could spend $1 on a cup of coffee and not have to cut your gold bar into 1,000 pieces. And if you wanted your gold back, you simply took $1,000 in bills back to the bank to redeem them for the actual form of money, in this case, that gold bar, whenever you needed. And so, paper began its use as money as an instrument of practicality and convenience. However, as time progressed and due to macroeconomic changes, this bond between the paper receipt and the gold it stands for was broken. Now, to explain the path that led us away from the gold standards is extremely complex, but suffice to say that governments told their people that the government itself would be liable for the value of that paper money.
Do we trust the government to honor their commitments? We don't?
The lottery episode, they were taking money away from the people who need it. So I don't.
That's
really,
right.
I don't
In
really
the lottery reaction video, they were taxing the poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't trust the government about money.
Okay.
We all said, let's just forget about gold and trade paper instead. So people continued to trade with receipts that are backed by nothing but the government's promise. And why did that continue to work? Well, because of trust. Even though there is no actual commodity backing paper money, people trusted the government, and that's how fiat money was created. And so the trust model has changed from trusting something to trusting someone. In this case, the government. Fiat money has two main drawbacks. One, it is centralized. You have a central authority that controls and issues it. In this case, the government or central bank. And two, it is not limited by quantity. The government or central bank can print as much as they want whenever needed. And
It's interesting he keeps saying government or central bank. Remember, did we talk about the Federal Reserve?
Yeah. That was the government.
No, Federal Reserve has nothing to do with the government.
Really?
Federal Reserve is a bank owned by a bunch of rich bankers.
Oh yeah, that's right. The rich people.
Yeah, the super rich people. So why does he keep saying the bank or the centralized bank or the government? They're two separate things.
and inflate the money supply on the market. The problem with printing money is that because you're flooding the market with more money, the value of each dollar drops, so your own money is worth less. When you see prices rising throughout the years, it's not necessarily that prices are rising as much as that the purchasing power of your money is dropping.
That's what
You
we learned
need
in the
more
inflation
dollars
episode.
to buy something that used to cost less. Once fiat money was in place, the move to digital money was pretty simple. We already have a central authority that issues money, so why not make money mostly digital and let that authority keep track of who owns what?
What I get from it is there's less value in the money.
There's definitely less value in money every year. Unless they're talking about taking money out of the system and like burning those dollars and coins?
Well, that would make sense because they're also printing them at the same time.
Are they printing at the same time? They're creating money, but they're not actually printing it.
Like they're making them, like they're printing the money onto the cut and paper thing.
They're making money, but they're not printing it. They're just going into the computer and just saying there's more money in the world. Yeah.
You serious?
If I have a file that represents $1, what's to stop me from copying it a million times and having $1 million? This is called the double spend problem. The solution that banks use today is a centralized solution. They keep a ledger on their computer which keeps track of who owns what. Everyone has an account, and this ledger keeps a tally for each account. We all trust the bank, and the bank trusts their computer, and so the solution is centralized on this ledger in this computer. Whenever you give anyone control over the money supply, you're giving them enormous power, and this creates 3 major issues. The first issue is corruption. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. When banks have a mandate to create money or value, they basically control the flow of value in the world, which gives them almost unlimited power. A small example of how power corrupts can be seen in the Wells Fargo scandal, where employees secretly created millions of unauthorized bank and credit card accounts in order to inflate the bank's revenue stream, without their customers knowing about it for years. The second issue of a centralized system is mismanagement. If the central authority's interest isn't aligned...
What do you think about Wells Fargo making a bunch of bank accounts so they can make more money?
Well, it's like mean. Some people work hard for that money and they put it in to save up. And Wells Fargo is just taking it away.
Yeah, 1.4 million bank accounts. Fake accounts. Should they still be in business?
No.
Yeah.
And with the people it controls, there may be a case of mismanagement of the money. For example, printing a lot of money in order to save a certain bank or institution from collapsing, as what happened in 2008. The problem with printing too much money is that it causes inflation and basically erodes the value of the citizens' money.
So in 2008, they printed $700 billion. Did that lead to some inflation?
Yeah.
Yeah, how much they built and how much they printed in the last few years?
If that was 2008, I'm assuming they printed at least something $100 trillion.
Not 100 trillion, but they printed trillions.
One extreme example for this is Venezuela, where the government has printed so much money and the value of it has dropped so much that people are no longer counting money, but are weighing it instead. The last issue is control.
Does that make sense to you?
No.
So instead of counting the money because it takes too long, they just take all the money and just put it on a scale because each bill is worth so little. It's about how many pounds of the bills it is more valuable information than how much the money is worth. So we watched an inflation episode last week, and this is Venezuela. And World War II started because in World War I, we made Germany pay for all their crimes. And the way they paid for all their crimes was they just printed a bunch of money. And after they print all the money, all the German currency was worthless. And because they were poor, they started another world war. So every time we print money, the money becomes less valuable.
So why are we still printing money?
That's a great question.
You're basically giving away all control of your money to the government or bank. At any point in time, the government can decide to freeze your account and deny you access to your funds. Even if you use only cold hard cash, the government can cancel the legal status of your currency, as was done in India a few years back. This was the state of things until 2009. Creating an...
So they just deleted all those currencies. How do you feel about that?
That's just awesome, man.
But I mean, 500 to 1,000 rupees, I don't know the exact conversion, but what if today the United States government decided that all the pennies and nickels are no longer useful? How much do you think that would hurt everything?
That would hurt a lot of things, because that means that nickels too, you have to round everything to the nearest dime, and if you don't have the exact dime, you have to pay extra because they took away all those nickels and pennies.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much it would hurt us. It'll hurt us a little bit. I'm not sure how much it would hurt us because no one's walking around with their piggy banks or coin purses anymore.
Alternative to the current monetary system seemed like a lost cause, but then everything changed. In October of 2008, a document was published online by a guy calling himself Satoshi Nakamoto. The document, also called a white paper, suggested a way of creating a system for a decentralized currency called Bitcoin. This system claimed to create digital money that solves the double spend problem without the need for a central authority. At its core, Bitcoin is a transparent ledger without a central authority. But what does this confusing phrase even really mean? Well, let's compare Bitcoin to the bank. Since most money today is already digital, the bank basically manages its own ledger of balances and transactions. However, the bank's ledger is not transparent, and it's stored on the bank's main computer. You can't sneak a peek into the bank's ledger, and only the bank has complete control over it. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is a transparent ledger. At any point in time, I can sneak a peek into the ledger and see all of the transactions and balances that are taking place.
Is that all making sense? So if I go to the bank right now and deposit $100 into my account, okay? The bank electronically says, Steve, put in $100, right? And then increase the balance, the bank account, $100. All right, they pick a $100 bill, and inside they put $100 more. But if Amelia wants to go in there and sees how much is in Steve's bank account, or Steve's transactions for the day, you can't do that. Right? Right. Well, that's not transparent and centralized. The bank is responsible for it, right? Saying Bitcoin, if I put $100, if I buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, Amelia can see it. Anybody can see that Steve just bought $100 worth of Bitcoin.
The only thing you can't figure out is who owns these balances and who is behind each transaction. This means Bitcoin is pseudo-anonymous. Everything is open, transparent, and trackable, but you still can't tell who's sending what to whom. Let's explain this with an example. You can see on your screen certain rows from Bitcoin's ledger. We can see that a certain Bitcoin address sent 10,000 Bitcoins to another Bitcoin address in May of 2010. This specific transaction is the first purchase that was ever made with Bitcoin, and it was used to buy 2 pizzas by a guy named Laszlo. Laszlo published a post back in 2010 asking for someone to sell him 2 pizzas in exchange for 10,000 Bitcoins. Well, someone did, and now the price of these 2 pizzas is worth well over $100 million today. Bitcoin is also
You think that pizza was good?
Definitely not worth the money now.
No?
Nope.
Would you pay 10,000 Bitcoins for pizza now?
Depends on what pizza it is.
Centralized. There's no one computer that holds the ledger. With Bitcoin, every computer that participates in the system is also keeping a copy of the ledger, also known as the blockchain. So if you want to take down the system or hack the ledger, you'll have to take down thousands of computers which are keeping a copy and constantly updating it. Like most money today, Bitcoin is also digital. This means there's nothing physical that you can touch in Bitcoin. There are no actual coins. There are only rows of transactions and balances. When you own Bitcoin, it means that you own the right to access a specific Bitcoin address record in the ledger and send funds from it to a different address. So, what does all of this mean? Why is Bitcoin such big news? Well, for the first time since digital money came into existence, we now have an alternative to the current system. Bitcoin is a form of money that no government or bank can control. Think about the time before the internet.
Does that make sense?
Kind of.
So, what does it mean?
Government control it. Government can't control it. So, but it's there. You can't physically. There's nothing to touch there. There's nothing. It's all online. And to look into hack it, you have to go through thousands of computers. I think I said. Because
to turn it off, to destroy it, you have to go through all those computers.
Yeah, because each computer is still updating, and each computer has its own copy, and there could always be more. People could always make more computers.
Yep.
So the time you're using to stop those computers, there could be more computers being made for that ledger.
How centralized the flow of information was. Basically, if you wanted information, you could get it from a few major players like the New York Times, the Washington Post, and others like them. Today, thanks to the internet, information is decentralized and you can communicate and consume knowledge from around the world with the click of a button. Bitcoin is the internet of money, and it's offering a decentralized solution to money. Bitcoin has several advantages over the current system. First, it gives you complete control over your money. With Bitcoin,
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I would say that was a good thing.
you and you alone can access your funds. How you actually do this will be explained in a later video. No government or bank can decide to freeze your account or confiscate your holdings. Bitcoin also cuts a lot of the middlemen from the process of transferring money. This means that in many cases, Bitcoin is cheaper to use than traditional wire transfers or money orders. Also, unlike fiat currencies, Bitcoin was designed to be digital by nature. This means you can add additional layers of programming on top of it and turn it into smart money. But more on that in later videos.
So they're saying no middleman, so it's cheaper. So you know Bitcoin.
Yep.
What's the other one? What's the other big one?
Ethereum?
Ethereum. Ethereum is not cheaper. Ethereum is super expensive to use. So Bitcoin is the first one, Ethereum is the second one. But Ethereum is a lot more expensive. We're not saving money by avoiding the middleman with Ethereum.
Finally, Bitcoin opens up digital commerce to 2.5 billion people around the world who don't have access to the current banking system. These people are unbanked or underbanked because of where they live and the reality that they've been born into. However, today, with a mobile phone and a click of a button, they can start trading using Bitcoin. No permission needed. Today, there are several merchants online and offline that accept Bitcoin. You can order a flight or book a hotel with Bitcoin if you like. There are even Bitcoin debit cards that allow you to pay at almost any store with your Bitcoin balance. However, the road toward acceptance by the majority of the public is still a long one.
So, after watching this video, what do you think about Bitcoin?
Well, there's no middleman. It's transparent, which means everybody can see it, and there's nothing to like touch. So like you can't physically steal it. Like,
You know what Bitcoin's at today?
it changes a lot. What?
I think it's like 17,000,
Really?
something like that. You know, Uncle Patrick and Uncle Goran was telling me about Bitcoin when it was $500. And I said, you know what? This thing's a scam. This thing has no hope. I mean, it's not tied to anything. It's not tied to gold. It's not tied to government.
But like, there's a lot of hope now. People use it a lot.
I know. So I totally missed out.
Yeah.
Should have bought a bunch of $500.
Mhm.
Could retire by now, maybe. I could retire. You still have to work.
Why? I'm not even 14 yet.
Okay, fine. So how do you feel about Bitcoin?
I feel like it's a lot easier than money. Because, yeah, people can look into it, but people can't really, people can look into it, but people can't really, unless they like tracked from the exact beginning, I don't think people can see how much you actually have in Bitcoin.
Right.
So they know, oh, they just got this, they just spent this, but they don't, unless they tracked it from when you start your account, they don't actually know how much Bitcoin you have.
Okay, so here's the test. Should we take all your college savings and buy Bitcoin?
No,
Why not?
because it can change.
Yeah, so you don't believe in Bitcoin.
I do, but the value can change over time.
Mm-hmm.
So we can either invest or lose money by putting them into Bitcoin, because it can go up, it can go down. Either way, I don't think it's a good idea.
What if we take the Bitcoin? All right, it's 17,000 approximately. But what if we turn to 100,000? That would be 5 extra college money, 6 extra college money. Not worth it?
Well, yeah, it's worth it, but the risk of also losing money in the process, I don't think it's worth it.
Should we go tell mom that we're buying Bitcoin with all your college money?
You can do it for your own savings. You're not doing it for mine.
All right, guys, comment below. Let us know. Should we buy Bitcoin with all of our college savings?